Yeah, today, now I'm going to be talking about how Nostr wins. And yeah, this is a wink to Matadale, a humble guide to relevancy. Okay, winning. Okay, I asked a bunch of people how Nostr wins because I wanted to see what people answered. I got a bunch of different answers, but from a few people I got, oh, dude, do we even want to win? Which, okay, I said, okay, I'm going to just address that part. Yes, we do want to win. The argument that people gave me that why we don't have to win, dude, it's all good, is that they want to keep the signal of, oh, it's few people in Nostr, so it's pure signal. If you want that, you can just create a relay, whitelist or the current path keys, and never see another person that is not on Nostr to this date ever again. Perfect. That's optionality. That's what Nostr is about. You have the option of interacting with Nostr in whatever way you want. Okay. Now, with that out of the way, let's define a little bit more precisely what winning. Well, it's not very precise, but let's define a bit what winning means. And it just means adoption. It's not very fancy. It just means more people using it, more relays existing, more economic activity, more businesses, more. Nostr has a very, very cool design that it's very much you choose what you see. The way it works is you go and fetch data. Even at the protocol level, it's very, very, very much a pull protocol where you decide the nodes that you're getting. When you see airdrop, spam, you went and asked for that, that spam. No one sent you the spam, you went and get it. So it's pretty cool because you can create your own experience on how you feel Nostr. So the first is, how do we not win? Let's get that part cleared out because I think it helps us think. The first one is, it's very hard to out-Twitter Twitter. I don't think you can win by just being Twitter. They've been around for longer. They are much better funded. They used to have name recognition. They changed the name, whatever. Some of the brand recognition transferred to X, not much, but whatever. And yeah, we have a bit of a mantra, a bit of a cliche that for a product to disrupt another product, it needs to be at least 10x better. It's a very well-known cliche. It's a very valid cliche, in my opinion. We don't win, and this might be a bit controversial. I guess not. We don't win by censorship resistance. People don't care. For the most part, most people, when you go mass scale, most people will see censorship resistance as a problem to be fixed. How do we ban the neo-Nazis? How do we ban the whatever your hated group of the week is? We don't win by focusing on censorship resistance. It's not appealing. It's not appealing except for a very small cohort of people. It's not something that conveys or pushes people to act. And wishful thinking. There's a lot of wishful thinking in Nostr. There's a lot of wishful thinking in Bitcoin. Oh, Bitcoin has already won. It's inevitable. It's preordained by the gods. It's not. That leads to not to contrarian thinking. It leads to complacency. That's not the way we should go about thinking about how to improve things, how to improve the world. Because if the efficient market hypothesis is correct, then we don't have to do anything. Everything has been done, and we're good, right? That's not how we win. We win by acting, by doing things. And we don't win if we centralize. It's funny because I have in the same slide, I have censorship resistance, and centralizing is the other side of censorship resistance. If we are not censorship resistant, we centralize, and the other way around. So even though it's not a good pitch, it's not something that will make people move into learning about relays and all these things and private keys and all these things. It is fundamental. It is absolutely fundamental. And when I say centralizing, I mean both relays and clients. Either of those could centralize, or both could centralize. If we end up with a model that requires just connecting to one or two hubs, that means that we are under risk of first failing, which is the most likely case. We first failing because the network can't scale, and when there is an influx of new users, everything crashes. We've seen that a couple of times when, I think it was when Snowden came, or when Jack, I think it was when Jack came. I don't know. It was one time that basically relays were just non-functional, like the big relays. Or if a client owns a very large chunk of the market share, which is one of the things that has been worrying me about Nostr for quite a while, is that a client that becomes very popular, that gains a bunch of market share, it could be very easily used to command the design of the protocol, and it could very easily capture it. That's why I've been trying to talk a lot about the micro apps and the micro apps ecosystem, because if culture has a lot of power to shape things. There's a saying by Peter Drucker that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And it's very true. And establishing a culture of using micro apps and being used to using different apps is very important, because it preempts the move of a large capitalized client from capturing a lot of market share. Not to be naive, because this is still very possible. We are nowhere near being like safe on this part. And to me, this is a very important one. Tomorrow we're going to have a panel about this. But the lack of an outbox model, and I use the term outbox model very loosely, it simply means having some kind of decision tree of algorithm on how you decide to which relays you're going to write and from which relays you're going to read. It's a bit technical, but it basically means how easy is for a person to run their own relay, and even though they are banned and censored from all the main hubs, they can still have a voice where the users that want to interact with that person don't even realize that that person is being banned. That's the ultimate test. If a server goes down, if a relay goes down, and the users realize that it went down, then that means that the network is not resilient, decentralized enough. And make Blaster relevant. Basically, as long as there is an economic incentive to use Blaster, which is simply a relay that when you publish to it, it just sends it to 300 other relays. As long as there is an incentive to use that, then we know that we are still not there yet. There's still a lot of work to be done. So how does Nostr win? We went through a bunch of reasons why it would not win. Okay. If you're here, I'm going to guess that you can guess what's the answer that I'm going to give. But just in case, it's the other stuff, stupid. It always has been. Why? Why is it the other stuff? Oh, first, when I say that it's the other stuff, that doesn't mean that microblogging, the Twitter use case, is not important. It's absolutely fundamental. Having a myriad of different clients, solid, well-done, executed clients, is a necessity. It's just not sufficient. It's necessary, but not sufficient. So why the other stuff? Well, network effects are incredibly powerful. They are almost everything. There's a reason why we see, it's very rare to see that an incumbent, like a social network, is replaced by something else. They can make horrible, terrible decisions. Facebook has abused their users to no end. Snowden revealed how much this was going on, and this has happened so many times, yet people still flock to it. Its network effects make the product incredibly, incredibly sticky. When when all your friends are on a network, clearing this 10x better bar, the cliche that I was referring to earlier, clearing that is very, very, very hard. And Nostr has not cleared that bar. I mean, it's nowhere near close to clearing the bar where it's 10x better at anything than something else. Very few things. But there are many, many good chances. There are many good reasons why Nostr has a really good chance of clearing this. And only one of them, it's enough. And to me, that reason is interoperability. Just the transparent, like a magic interoperability of Nostr. Because when you have this basically for free interoperability, it unleashes something that is even more powerful than network effects. It's one of the very few things in reality that is more powerful than network effects. And it's network effects time network effects, time network effects, time network effects, time network effects. We can summarize it to raise to the power of use cases. Network effects, raise to the power of use cases. Why? Each use case that is implemented in Nostr gains a bunch of really cool properties. And it multiplies, it makes all the other products that are completely independent of the use case of this one application, of this one use case, it makes them a little bit better. It's like saying eBay, network effects, time Netflix, network effects, time Twitter, network effects, etc., etc. This is very, very, very powerful. We are so much at the very early stages of this compounding of network effects that is really hard to see. Something interesting that happened when I was going to Miami, I think I mentioned this earlier, is that I was flying to Miami and I noticed I created Subster, which is like a music app, and Snort integrated support for Subster. So users that were uploading music to Subster had their music maybe zapped or listened to at least from Snort users. And then Amethyst implemented Subster support. And now Coracle implemented support for WebLake or Stemster. And this is super crazy, like this linking of the different use cases that improve the product throughout the spectrum of the Nostr ecosystem. It's really wild. When you think about it, it means that Facebook, which has an enormous advantage over Nostr, obviously, Facebook has to compete with the rest of the world when it comes to building stuff on Nostr. And then Twitter has to compete with the rest of the world that comes on Nostr. Like each independent, completely vertical corporation, as big as they are, they must compete with the rest of the world. Right now, the rest of the world is almost nothing, but my thinking is that it's going to gain more and more and more momentum. But we need to do a couple of things. The first one that I think we need to do is we need to change the way we think and define Nostr. So far, usually we are defining Nostr via negativa. We are defining Nostr by what it's not. We say it's censorship resistant. There are no manipulative algorithms hidden. There are no masters. So it's great and it's real, but it's hard to relate. I wrote, it's like defining, oh, my wife is great. She almost never manipulates me. You would talk about her beautiful attributes, that she's very smart, that she's very supportive, or whatever attribute she has. You wouldn't say, oh, she doesn't do this really ugly thing to me. But this is the way we tend to define and explain, and even reason around Nostr. And it's just put the energy in the wrong place. I don't know. There are so many positive things to say about Nostr that focusing on what it isn't is like missing the possibilities. And when I think about how do we explore these possibilities, I think that what we need to explore these possibilities is entrepreneurs. We have a very healthy ecosystem of developers currently, and it's fantastic, and we need more. I think the groundwork that we've done in the past few months to bring more developers to be able to create applications and create robust applications and create applications that kind of work, which is pretty surprising. It's pretty good, and we've done great. The developers are coming. I see it on my DMs a lot, and that's fantastic. We need the tinkerers because we are still largely on unexplored territory. But we have very little entrepreneurs. We have very little businesses thinking long term. One of the things that a business has, regardless of scale, that a developer doesn't have is usually focus. A million things, but usually for these topics, focus on a vision for product. Developers, we tend to get very excited about technology and we want to play with this, play with that, and we end up with a bunch of abandonware or stuff that is buggy or stuff that simply does not have a robust roadmap of where are we going. And we definitely need to bring more entrepreneurs into the fold to help us find, discover. There are a bunch of things that still need to be discovered, and I think businesses are going to help us unlock these things. And there's a very interesting chance of creating very compelling, very powerful businesses that are non-extracting. If we think how big tech has evolved over the past 20, 25 years, they didn't really create that much value. Facebook or Meta, has an enormous valuation, but they didn't really create it. They were just lucky. Obviously there's a lot of execution and there's a lot of nuance to what I'm saying with the lucky word, but they were definitely in the right place at the right time to be able to capture the value that is intrinsically created by network effects. They just happen to be able to capture it. And they execute it magnificently well. And that part of the execution is what we need in Nostr. But the value created by network effects was going to happen. It's just, is it capturable or is it not capturable? And I think there are many reasons to build a business on Nostr. It sounds kind of weird because businesses on Nostr, there are no profitable businesses on Nostr, but that's simply the Nostr economy is way too small. It's impossible to create a sustainable business at this stage. And I don't think businesses should be thinking about monetizing. I know some people are thinking about monetizing now. I think that's insanely early, and it's going to lead you to poor decisions. It's going to lead you to wrong conclusions, like stuff that would have worked, but it didn't work yet just because the economy is so small. But why would you build a business on Nostr? Why not just build a typical SaaS, or just try to deplatform Google, or you go blue sky style? There is a philosophical answer to this, and it's that Nostr aligns with nature much better, which means that by aligning your energy and your business, you benefit from having to exert less force. It's more sound. It's more thermodynamically sound. It's like deciding whether to swim against the current or with the current. And there's I wrote a few months ago. I wrote that all companies that have a social component will end up being either a Nostr client or dead. And I think the force of this compounding of network effects, it's going to crush any business that is not harnessing this force. Even if you stay completely away, if there is some type of social component to your business, and what's interesting is that almost everything that happens on the internet has a social layer. And Nostr, I've been thinking about that is that Nostr is a bit like a social layer. Like we also usually use like the Aussie layer model and like CPIP and all these things, which I kind of hate because it's a bit taking way too far, and I'm going to take it way too far. And in that the anything that has a social component will benefit of being built on top of Nostr. And if you don't build on top of Nostr, and Nostr ends up winning, which is what I think is going to happen, it's just nature, your use case that you didn't build on Nostr is going to be crushed by something that is built on Nostr. We still have a bunch of open questions, like how censorship resistant is Nostr. Like all this stuff has not been tested. Can relays economically sustain themselves? I have theories. We very often discuss these things, but these are all theories. We need economic activity. We need entrepreneurs. We need businesses to come and leverage Nostr so we can find the answers to these questions. It's certainly not an easy pitch to go to an entrepreneur and show them Nostr, and for them to be able to see it. It's such a small economy that you have to look out really far into the future. But if you squint, you can see that there are very, very powerful building blocks happening here. Just the fact that a bunch of developers are coming. That's usually a good barometer. But certainly, it's not for the faint of heart. And with that, I'm going to thank you guys. And yeah, if there are any questions, we have 3 minutes. Thank you. So she asked if there is like a Nostr United Nations. My skin crawls with that question a bit. So before I go off, like, what do you mean?
So basically, we have all these different builders who in one way or another are working towards the same thing, which is to have more people join the ecosystem and to have Nostr be the thing that people want to build on or be a part of. So I'm wondering is like how much intercommunication is there? It's like obviously it's like I guess in some ways some of the clients are competing, but I think it could be interesting if there was maybe like a delegate per client or per relay where people would meet like once a month and kind of discuss like how we can help each other reach certain milestones or something of that nature. It feels like it's very segmented, so I'm kind of wondering like what's happening in that respect or if there's anyone trying to organize that.
Yeah, nothing like that is happening. If something like that were to happen, I would go and work on Blue Sky. No, I wouldn't. I would fork Nostr. No, something like that is not happening. I don't think anyone within like any developer would like that. We discover truth by fighting. Like that's how nature works. It's just capitalism is savage. Animals die. Species go extinct. And that's how we find truth. You don't find it by consensus. You don't find it by getting around on a table and just chatting things over. I don't think that works at any level. And I think that just leads down horrible decisions. Yeah, so I just hope that never happens. I don't think that would happen. Yeah, clients fighting is a very good thing. One more question.
Yeah, so real quick, I'm coming from the musician world. Started in about '99, where we got Napster, which was great because we got a lot of cool things, but we kind of got debased in a lot of ways. And I remember MySpace being a lot better for creators than Facebook. We had basic HTML. We could put on music and stuff. And just your opinion in short, why do you think Facebook won over MySpace back in the day?
I mean, Facebook did launch with a very, I don't know how much they thought about it, but a very good strategy of just going for a niche and just conquering that niche. They didn't try to be the global social network. They went and they solved one very specific use case, and then they started growing and growing and growing layers. They first expanded to the nearby universities, and then more and more and more, and they were the university social network, and then from there they expanded. And MySpace did the big issue where they rewrote the code base, which is like startup killer. Very, very hard as a startup to survive saying, I'm going to rewrite everything. So maybe it was something else. I don't know. That's what I know about.
Right on. Appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, guys.